Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Liverpool Connection podcast. I am Dazza. I'm by me Todd again today, left alone. Well, the kids are in the living room. Hopefully they're not breaking things, and we got a new puppy. So so I've got 5 kids. But anyway, hopefully you've had a good holiday. Today we're going to chat preview about the upcoming Leicester match and a few big news coming out yesterday. So we'll talk about that. But I'm really happy to welcome back, and I think it has been 2 years. It's Mr. Paul Salt. He's from BBC Radio Merseyside and also has a podcast called Red Kop Podcast. So please go check that out. Paul, welcome again. It's really good to have you back on. It doesn't seem like 2 years.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it, Daz? I think with the pandemic, I don't know whether the time's gone, really. It's sort of all been a bit weird, but now, thankfully, we're all back to normal-ish and watching football normally again as well, so that's good.
Yeah, as normal as you can be. And, the Reds have had an up and down season. I mean, this World Cup is kind of... I mean, did you watch any of it?
I'll tell you, to be honest with you, I sort of vowed not to be really that interested in it and said, I'm going to leave it. I'll really, really pick and choose the games. And ended up watching most of the games and being quite gripped about it. You know, if you sort of got to separate the moral side from the actual football. And the football in the main was pretty good. It was a good World Cup, wasn't it, from a footballing point of view? And then the final was obviously absolutely amazing. So I did end up watching quite a lot of it. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of the same. I didn't watch too many of the group games, but then, the games I was watching, the round of 16 and stuff, I started to kind of, like you said, kind of separate and just watch the football and enjoy the football. And it actually was an enjoyable World Cup. The final was, I mean... It's no Istanbul, but it was very enjoyable, and the GOAT Messi, he deserved it. It's like the icing on the cake. Like, he's done so much for football. All these young kids have the Messi shirts on, and then for him to actually lift the World Cup is great, and for Argentina as well. So yeah, enjoyed it. But yeah, real football is back. Again, like I said, Liverpool have had their ups and downs, but, I guess we'll start off with the big news yesterday. Nobody thought we had a chance. Nobody, we're on the line. 50% think, FSG will do something, and then 50% think not a chance. FSG are done with this club, and, why would they buy somebody if they're going to sell it? Why would they put money into it? And I think that's ridiculous. It's just a daft statement. And then under the radar, Man United think they're going to get him, and then we sneak in submarine style and get the Dutch maestro, Gakpo, whatever his name is. I think he's a steal for 37 million.
It's a great bit of business, and regardless of what happens with FSG, it's a very FSG thing to have done the way that we've done it. This is how certainly Klopp appears to like to do business, where, he comes in sort of last minute and gets a player and blindsides a lot of people, including the media. I don't think the media really had much of an inkling that this was in the offing. As you say, Manchester United looked like the team that were going to get him. And so for Liverpool to sort of cast this surprise, not hang around getting him, and also get him from under the noses of a team who, whether you like it or not, are probably going to be challenging for the top 4, like realistically we are now. And I think they needed him as much as we needed him, really, to be honest with you. So when you look at him, it's for a lot of money, but it's not an astronomical fee. And nowadays, is it really, 37 million and then rising after that, depending on how well he does. But, a few weeks ago, we were talking and we were saying how, Liverpool desperately needed a midfielder. Well, that's kind of been really usurped by the fact the Jota injury and then the Diaz second injury as well You know, with Origi going and Minamino going, we were so short on numbers that I and a lot of other fans I go to the match with were saying we need a forward more than we need a midfielder. And I don't know whether you go along with that, but I still want to see a midfielder come in, absolutely. But I think a forward was more of a priority because Diaz isn't going to play until March, is he? So, you know, when you look at it like that, it does seem to be the ideal signing, for, especially for a January signing, where you don't always get the quality you get in the summer. So for me, it's perfect. Perfect.
Well, I mean, you know, they say Diaz for March, but it could be a lot longer. That just means him coming back. That doesn't mean he's got to get up to match fit. You know, the Jota, some say February, but then we really, you know, Klopp hasn't really spoken like what is really going on. Now you've got Bobby injured, so it's ideal. I mean, you cannot just have Mo and Nunes for you know, the next few games and then January or February. There's not a chance. So it makes perfect sense. I mean, obviously, I'm all about bringing a midfielder in as well. But the forward line, again, you can't just leave two forwards and then Bobby as well, or just have those three play. I mean, it's a deal that was just there, and I think, you know, I was reading this morning, Julian Ward's, you know, didn't have much of a Christmas. He spent with his counterpart from PSV, you know, hacking out this deal, and I think he's absolute quality. I haven't watched. All I watched was basically the World Cup with him in it, and if that's any indication of how he plays, I mean, he scored 3 goals in 3-4 games, so that's a pretty good return. So hopefully he can do that for Liverpool. But yeah, you know, I cannot wait for him to get the boots on, get the red shirt on, and get on with it. And I think he'll fit really well. I mean, obviously Verge helped a lot. You know, I love the sneaky bit he did yesterday after the match. You know, basically telling everyone like we're bringing someone in, and you know, hopefully he does a Diaz and he hits, you know, flying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he has that impact, we'll all be very happy, won't we? But he's a signing that you can just see fitting in straight away because he predominantly plays off the left. So you would say when Diaz is fit, he will be competition. But the way that Liverpool's forwards play and the way, you know, the team lines up, they're all really versatile. And he appears to fit into that bracket because, as I said, he plays off the left, but he can play as a number 10. Not that we play with a number 10 very often, but I know he can play off the right, and I know he has played as a centre forward. So you're saying that he can play in 4 different positions. Well, when you look at players, you know, you look at Nunes, you would say was bought as a centre forward, but has actually played a lot on the left since he signed back in the summer. So you can see him interchanging with Nunes. The same with Jota. Again, you might see him as a centre forward, plays off the left a lot as well. Even, you know, Diaz can move around. Salah plays in the middle and is predominantly, you know, on the right. So I can see them all interchanging really quite well. And you need that versatility. You can't just buy a player who's going to play on the left and that's it. You know, he scores goals. His assist record is great. He's got a World Cup behind him now from an experience point of view, which I think will stand him in really good stead. He's a really good age. What is he, 23, I think? So
23.
Yeah, he's a really good age. And, okay, he's not playing in he's played in the Europa League, so he has got a bit of a European pedigree, European background behind him. So from Liverpool's point of view, and to get him in January when we really, really need reinforcements, it feels perfect because my big problem with, you know, Minamino and Origi, okay, you might not say they pulled up any trees, but actually Minamino contributed a lot of goals in the Cups. And Origi is always a player you can bring on when you need a goal. And to lose both of them, it felt like we left a gap there, really, that we hadn't filled. And I think that's where we've struggled a little bit this season, having that option on. How many times have we been struggling the game? And you look at the bench and you go, well, who would you bring on here? Who would you, we really haven't got that many options. So whether this lad's going to have to come in and hit the ground running, but when the other lads are fit again, he's still going to be an option if he's on the bench, isn't he? And that's going to make up the world of difference, I think, when you're competing for a top 4 place.
Yeah, because I mean, you watched the first, since like August, you looked at our bench, and it's been like 3-4 teenagers.
Mm.
Well played to them, but that was at Klopp's disposal. So having somebody like him, where you can look on the bench and be like, okay, I can bring him on, I can bring him and him and him. It just looks better. It makes me feel a lot better, But we've talked about Fernandes as well. There's more talk about him, and Man United again, have done the release clause is what the Twitter rounds are saying, and we might do another sweep on them. He's another one, but again, January 100+ mil. I can't see it happening.
No, I think my issue has sort of been with Liverpool under FSG is that they haven't been, or maybe it's a Klopp thing, I don't know, but they haven't necessarily been able to compromise when it comes to signing players. So, in the summer, I can't remember how many shows I did where we were talking about needing a midfielder. And then, you say every week we need a midfielder. It doesn't happen. You need a midfielder. And, it felt like we put all our eggs in the Tchouaméni basket, didn't it? And then that didn't happen. And then because of that, we didn't get anyone. And then the last minute we get Artur, who I think, he was photographed the other week, wasn't he, in Dubai, looking like he was having a lovely time. So he is still around. But, it felt like if we compromised and gone for a player for 20 or 30 million there, we may have been able to pick someone up who could have made a difference to our midfield. So if we're putting all our eggs in the Bellingham or the Fernandes basket and we don't get them, are we going to leave ourselves in the same situation where we're short again? And, I thought the midfield actually in the Villa game did well. And it's interesting that he went for the really experienced midfield to start with. He went with his kind of default set midfield that you would go to kind of in an emergency. And that was really good. But then, after that, you're looking and thinking, well, there's not a lot there. Now, as it turns out, Bajcetic, however you want to say that one as well, it's another one, came in and did amazingly well. But, he's still a kid who's still learning. We haven't, the players that we played last night, all 3 of them are injury prone, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's the worry for me. And then all of a sudden, it's not beyond the realms of possibility 2 of them get injured at the same time. And then Bajcetic is playing a lot more football, isn't he, all of a sudden? Because we haven't, Naby Keita's going to break down injured as well. We know that before too long.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the massive problems that we've had, especially with Ox. We talked about it over the summer as well. Like, I think if Ox hadn't have got injured, he wouldn't be a Liverpool player anymore. If somebody had come in with 10, 15 mil, would not be playing for Liverpool. He would be one gone. Keita is just this extraordinary player that he's gifted. You can see it, but he's too injury prone. I think the Premier League is too much for him, or the way Klopp trains is too much for him. And it's kind of sad, but we need to move these kind of players on and bring fresh talent. But again, January, not a chance in hell we're spending 100 million. Again, if we're talking Bellingham money as well, Bellingham seems like that's the number one choice. So I just can't see us spending 100 now and then another 100 plus in the summer.
But that's what I mean about putting all your eggs in one basket. So, if you're saying it's Bellingham, you can't say it's Bellingham or bust, because Bellingham might go to Man City or might go to Real Madrid or wherever. I think one thing that Klopp has always been not bothered about, and good about really, is if he's got a player and that player is going to leave in the summer. So I'm thinking Keita and I'm thinking Oxlade-Chamberlain. That doesn't mean that he won't carry on playing him. If he there won't be any, he's leaving, so I'm going to leave him out. We saw that with Wijnaldum, didn't we? If he thinks he can, if Keita stays fit and the Ox stays fit between now and the summer, they will get games. and they could actually be really useful for us. But the problem is, it's them staying fit. But if you can, I mean, you saw it with Ox against Villa. You know, I thought he faded quite a lot in the second half, but I thought in the first half he had a really good game. You know, with the run he made led to the second goal in the end. So there is value in those players, but we just haven't seen enough of it. But I don't think he won't use them. I think he will. But like I said before, if 3 or 4 of them all of a sudden, we seem to be a club that just has a crisis in positions, don't we, when it comes to injuries? So we had the defensive crisis a couple of years ago. You know, we've had midfielders out earlier on this season. We're now going through the forwards. It seems they all seem to be lumped together.
What it is? It's some Man United fan with a doll. The pins every season going like that, and we still usually a better position than them anyway. So obviously that doll's not working too well. But we've got another massive game at home on Friday against Leicester, who got a hammering yesterday. They did not look good. It just seems like, Maddison's their top scorer with 7 goals. He's a really good player. Newcastle, there's a few clubs looking at him, but they just look lost. And I think, from what I'm reading to, the Leicester fans are just about, starting to think about, we need a change in management.
Yeah, I think, I heard anecdotally a while ago when they started the season so badly that they'd had it with Rodgers then, and then obviously they picked up. I mean, they're 13th now, right? Yeah. But it's really bunched up. It's they're a defeat away from being right back in the relegation zone as well. And I didn't watch all of the game against Newcastle. I saw some of it. I mean, you'd think if we can get at them defensively, I mean, they looked appalling. Like, Newcastle were getting through them so easily. They were making mistakes. They were trying to play out from the back, and it was going wrong. They can't defend set plays. Not that we're great at set, but you get Van Dijk on the end of a corner or something like that. Of the 3 games over the Christmas period, and this is tempting fate now, I was least worried about Leicester at home, if that makes sense. So we got Villa away. I was actually really quite concerned about, because I thought, new manager, only been there a couple of games. At home on Boxing Day, they'll be well up for that. And Brentford are always, you never know. We saw what Brentford did against Spurs yesterday. They probably should have won that game. Spurs did what they normally do and came back at them. But Leicester at home, and I say, I don't want to tempt fate, that was the one that didn't concern me, even though they have picked up a bit of form. But they look so flaky, don't they? They really do. I don't know what's Maddison's fitness like, because he didn't play, did he, yesterday?
Well, he's still got the knee issue that he had, before the World Cup. So, I mean, it'd be nice if he didn't play on Friday. I mean, they do have goals in them. I mean, Barnes and Paxton Daka, they're good players, but they can be got at. I mean, Newcastle blew them away in the first 7-8 minutes. Even though, Brendan will come out, as he always does. He used to do it for us as well. We gave character in the second half. Yeah, but you were 3-0 down. Like, you could say character all you want, but they don't look good. But, it's one of those where we should be smashing them. But then in the back of my mind, I'm always like, is just Brendan just going to set up to kind of frustrate us? But we should, because, he's a proud man, as you would be if you're a former Liverpool manager. He wants to go back to Anfield and get something from it. But I think we're too strong. I mean, Núñez is just, he was exceptional against Villa. He did everything right except score. And it's coming. It's coming.
It's funny, the Núñez thing. I mean, I read quite a lot of the press reports on that. And I don't know what the coverage over here was. It was on Amazon last night. And Andy Townsend was the co-commentator, and they gave Núñez man of the match. And then you read some of the press reports this morning, and someone gave him 5 out of 10. And I thought, that just seems madness, because they are just solely focusing on his finishing, which I get when you're a striker is really, really important. But, I mean, if he gets the finishing, he is going to be some player, isn't he? It's the finishing at the moment. And we saw it in the City game in the League Cup, and we saw it against Villa. It's the finishing that's massively letting him down. And also, you know, I got a bit frustrated watching him last in the Villa game. You know, he just needs to hold the line. He doesn't seem to, you know, how many times can one man get caught offside? It's a strange mix what you get with Núñez at the moment, isn't it? But we will get the rewards from him, I think. I think you just got to bear with him. And all these Andy Carroll jibes are just nonsense. It's just nonsense. It's just
it's daft. He's nothing like Andy Carroll.
He really isn't. No, he really isn't. And also, he's just a better player. You can see straight away he is a better player. And he's been in the Premier League with the World Cup team. He's been in the Premier League, 4 months, has he? You know, he's had a ban, missed, a few games anyway. I think patience seems to have gone out of football, doesn't it? Everyone wants it now, and I get that, but you've got to remember he's not an old player. There is the word raw comes up a lot. There is still a rawness about him, but he's getting into those positions. Look at the third goal. Third goal is down to him. Without his determination, we don't score that goal. So I'm not worried. People seem worried. I'm not worried by him at all.
No, and this whole flop rubbish as well, it just makes me laugh. I mean, it's all about Haaland versus Núñez, and obviously Haaland has more experience than Núñez has. He's played in for Dortmund quite a few seasons. He's played in the Champions League before. Yes, Núñez has, but not as much. But he's raw. And he's a bit mental. But I like that. I like that Suarez-ish player, in him. And, when he did get sent off against Palace, yes, I was pissed off because I was like, now we're down to 10 men, and he's out for 3 games. And I think that really did affect him and the team, him being out. But if you can't see it as a player there, then you need to stop watching football. And again, there's flops and Andy Carroll jibes. It's all because of how much we paid for him. That's what it is. It's like he should be scoring every game because, we paid 85 for him. And, football isn't like that. Crouchy, how many games without scoring? Mo, same thing.
Yeah, I mean, and that really got in Crouch's head, and then when he did get one, he was away then. But it's funny because my son's just turned 12 now, but I took him to the Charity Shield when we played City, and you watch that game, and everyone was comparing Núñez and Haaland then, and I know Haaland has obviously done a lot more since, but you looked at that, you wouldn't have. People were saying, "Oh, Haaland's the flop here after one game." So that's what I mean. People are so quick to judge, and you remember Haaland missed virtually an open goal at the bar, didn't he, in that game? Yeah. And obviously I was in the Liverpool and there's people around going, "Oh, we've got the better player and all that." It's so easy to jump to all kinds of conclusions, and I think the educated fans in the Kop and Anfield can see a player in there. And that's Suarez. That's Suarez determination. I think he's got it, and I think Diaz has got it as well. It's kind of like they never give up, and I just love that. You're never going to turn down a player like that, I don't think, are you?
No, and I mean, Klopp's press conference, the lad is exceptional, and when I still think he's the best manager in the world. Pep's got money, they're both very good, but I just rate Klopp for some reason. I listen to Klopp, I don't listen, these Twitter junkies that just like to just get on there and ramble and try and get clicks and likes and all this just because they're having a good go at Núñez. I think on Friday, I really do. I think he's going to get one at the Kop end, and everyone's going to go mental when he scores. I mean, it's not like he's not scored. That's what I don't understand about people. He has scored. I mean, the minutes he's played as well is pretty good. Just because your striker doesn't score, as long as you win, I'm all right. And what he put in against Villa, it was absolutely amazing to me. I mean, he could have just given up on that third one and just let it roll out, but he didn't. And that's the kind of player that I love, and I think we need at Liverpool. But what are you saying on your lineup? For obviously, there's going to be some changes.
Yeah. With the amount of games you've got coming, I mean, Konate, are we expecting him? Are we expecting him back? Are we expecting him back for that game or the Brentford game? I think Konate will hopefully start one of those games, and you'd expect him to be alongside Van Dijk again. I also wonder whether he'll mix the midfield up a little bit if he can. Because with Henderson playing a lot of the World Cup, he's got a lot of minutes in his legs, and I think that's why he probably bought him off last night. Hands up here, I'll be completely honest. When he made that sub last night, I was going, what? What is he doing here? Surely you want to stay in control of the midfield, and you're bringing Henderson off and putting a young kid on. But it actually turned out rather well, didn't it? So I think he'll make changes to the midfield. I don't know about Bobby's fitness. Do you? Don't know where Bobby's up to fitness-wise.
I don't think Bobby's been back in training. I can't see him playing Friday. I think it's way too soon. I mean, it seems like a minor muscle injury, but we've heard that before, minor.
Yeah.
And, Keita had a minor calf injury and was out for 3-4 months. So it's, I think it's too soon for Bobby. I think the front line, obviously Nunes and Mo.
Yeah.
But on the left side, I'm actually clueless. I mean,
unless he changes the formation and goes, which he has done, and plays them as a two again, which we've seen on it because he's so limited in what he can do. I think he'll try and get through with a lot of the players that he's already used in the league games, and then look to really mix it up in that cup game against Wolves. So I think you will see the likes of Ben Doak get a start, maybe even there, or the likes of Bajcetic as well. But there aren't that many options, are there? Really, when you look at it and you look at the injuries and, as we've said, the lack of midfielders. You'd expect Naby to get a game, wouldn't you, in one of the next two?
Yeah, I could actually see Naby starting, to be honest. Like he said with Henderson, I mean, Henderson played near enough the whole game against City, then against Villa. So do you start Hendo? I have no idea. I mean,
I wonder whether he rests Hendo on Friday and brings him back on Monday. So Naby gets the start against Leicester, even alongside Thiago and Fabinho, and then he looks to rotate them round. If you're 2 or 3 up, fingers crossed, against Leicester, you've got 5 subs now, so that you can bring the likes of Henderson on even for the last few minutes. You can bring Bajcetic on. There are a few different options there, and then hopefully a few players are fresh again for Brentford on the Monday.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, the injuries that we've had, and there could be an injury or two against Leicester on Friday. You just never know. The midfield for me is always the one that's hard to pick. I mean, the back four, I would think, picked itself. I think Matip will probably get the nod again with Van Dijk. Robbo, I would think, will play, and then Trent will play. I can't see much of a change in the back five. Obviously, Alisson will start. But yeah, no, I would think a change there.
The only thing he has done is play Tsimikas, isn't it, now and again, and give Robbo a rest. But Robbo's not had a World Cup, so you wouldn't think Robbo would need a rest at this stage. Likewise with Trent, he has had a World Cup, although you'd hardly know it, would you, with the amount of minutes he got. So they should all be reasonably fresh, really. Hendo would be the worry for me in terms of freshness. And he'd be the one I'd be most likely to maybe take out against Leicester with a view to bringing him on and then maybe starting him against Brentford, I think.
Yeah, I would think the same. Maybe last 15, 20 minutes, bring him on against Leicester, and then he's raring to go away to Brentford. But, like you said, we should be able to just do away with Leicester. I'd love us to start quickly, get a goal, and then Leicester have to come out and they open up, and then we just open them up. Nunes bags a hat trick. The crowd go wild. Are you going?
I am. Yeah. I mean, it's just it feels like the first game of the season. It really does. The first home game of the season, because we've not been there for so long. So I'm really looking forward to it, and not normally a fan of Friday night games, to be honest with you. But with it being a Friday and it still being Christmas under the lights, I think that'll add to it as well. So I think the crowd will be well up for it. I think it'll be a really good occasion from that point of view. And I'm just hoping Leicester are ideal opponents, really. Again, I don't want to tempt fate, but I think with the way they looked undercooked. They didn't look like they'd really even prepared. And Rodgers did actually say he did question their attitude as well, which is never a good sign. So I think taking all that into account, hopefully we can catch them a bit cold, and as you said, get an early goal, and rather than having to dog it out for an hour or 70 minutes. Because the one as much as I love the crowd at Anfield, if you're not ahead early on, they can get really anxious, especially going into the second half against a team like that.
Yeah, it didn't happen last season, but it just seems this season the crowd is just on edge. Like they're nervous. You can sense it even through listening on the telly.
No, it's definitely a thing. It's a bit annoying, to be honest. I don't know what you put it down to, but it's crept in more and more where the crowd, or they're on a player very, very quickly. What the mistake, you can hear sort of a sigh, a collective sigh. And I've never been a Premier League footballer, so I don't know, but that's got to transmit itself to the players, and it's good. You've got to be a bit patient. I think we've done ourselves no end of favours already in the race for the top four now, because we're 5 behind Spurs with a game in hand. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think? Yeah. So, as Pop said, we're within touching distance now, and you look at the deficit we had last year. I'm not going to start saying we're going to win the league or anything, but we are good at being behind and making up deficits like that. So we shouldn't be worried, And we've got a game on Friday we should win. If that goes well, then you'd hope to pick up 3 points at Brentford, and then there's the FA Cup, isn't there? But before you know it, Spurs, I think, will drop points. I think they'll continue to drop points because that's just what Spurs do, isn't it? They didn't look great yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, Brentford, I thought were fantastic for the first, I'd say, 50 minutes. It was a great header by Kane, to be honest.
Yeah.
But, they've... Spurs, I mean, they're calling them the comeback kings, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they're getting away with it, but they can only get away with it so much. United aren't great. Chelsea have just, dropped off. They're getting used to, Potter's way of playing. But, I mean, if you write off Liverpool now after 16 games, again, football's not for you. We've come back from, a lot bigger distances, and 5 points with a game in hand. A lot of games to play through January. So will we challenge for the title? Probably not, but we'll be part of that title. You know what I mean? We'll have our say. So I think we have every possibility to. I still, part of me still thinks we can get second, because I think Arsenal, yeah, they're on this high, and yes, they've had one game without Jesus. Yes, they won and they did really well, but I just think if there's a few more injuries and then some bad results start happening, I think things can snowball for them. Well, I mean, it's great to see them up there. I mean, I wish we were up there as well, but it's one of those where I'm like, if we can't win it, I don't want City to win it again. So it's like, I have a few mates that are Arsenal fans. It's like, can they dream the dream? But you've also got Newcastle fans singing, "We're going to win the league," which I thought was fantastic. I mean, how was like, let them believe, because if they believe, if the fans start believing, the players start believing it. And you think for especially for Newcastle, the World Cup came, and you think, all right, they might not be, what they were doing before. They just carried on, and you just like, it's, there's no massive superstars on Newcastle either. So they're a team that are just, they look together.
I mean, they've lost one game, haven't they? And that was against us.
Lost, yeah.
And actually, they were unlucky to lose that game. I mean, they were time wasting something chronic, but aside from that, they were unlucky to lose that game. I mean, I just wonder whether, a bit like you said about Arsenal, whether Newcastle are in a similar sort of case, really, in that if they have a couple of injuries, I mean, and they actually had, Sir Maximan was out for a while, wasn't he? And that kind of, but if they have a couple of injuries and they have a couple of dodgy results, will they fall away because they've not got that kind of muscle memory of being there, done it before, in the same way that Arsenal haven't got that as well, whereas us and City have got that. You think about it, how many years now has it just been us and City going absolutely at it, hammer and tongs? So I know what you mean when you say you think we could still finish second, because those two are the first and second at the moment, and they haven't really had their blips yet. Mm-hmm. So if they haven't had their blips yet, we've had our blip. Hopefully we're not going to have another blip. So if we go on a run now, City just do what City do, don't they? I still expect City to win the league. So City win the league, could it be City top? And then really competing for second, you've got us, Arsenal, Newcastle. I'd tell you us, Arsenal and Newcastle, actually. I think Spurs and United will be fighting it out. But if you're going to say your top four, I'd go City, us, Arsenal, Newcastle. There you go. What about you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't have Newcastle in my. Oh boy, screaming kids! I didn't have Newcastle anywhere near my top four in the beginning, but yeah, I'd go with that. I think United will drop off. I think Spurs will definitely drop off. Chelsea just don't seem to be anywhere near, us. I mean, and to think, Paul, as well, like, we haven't really played that well, and we're still in touching distance of top four. That to me shows like how bad like some of the other teams have been playing. I mean, again, people writing us off 5 points away from the top four, and you're already halfway through. Well, not even halfway through the season. People are just like, nah, Liverpool, nah, no chance of top four.
Would you write off any team that had Salah in the that's what I mean. That's another thing you're talking about. People on Twitter. I try not to go on Twitter as much nowadays, but I mean, how many times has Salah been written off? And I thought he's brilliant again against Villa. It just, people don't appreciate that. Okay, it was a tap in the goal, but the awareness to be there. The only criticism I can give him is the one where he he went through and he probably should have squared it to Trent in the second half. But aside from that, the assist for Van Dijk was brilliant. He is just a special player. Well, Arsenal haven't got a Salah. Newcastle haven't got a Salah. Spurs haven't got a Salah. You know, to me, we should never underestimate and never take him for granted, should we? Just shouldn't do it.
No. All the silly talk about, you know, the money's gone to his head. The man builds schools, hospitals in Egypt. Money does not go to that man's head. He's just, you know, thinking what he's worth, which fair play. He is worth that, you know, compared to the other players in the world. And to have him on the team, he can have 89 minutes of a really bad game and then 1 minute of world-class football to put a winner in. But let's do predictions. I don't do predictions. I never have. I never will. You know, all I predict will win. I just don't do score lines. What's your score line for Friday?
You want a score line from me? Go on. 3-0. There you go.
3-0. Who've you got scoring?
Well, we've built him up now, haven't we? So I'll say Nunes will get one. And I think we'll get another one from Salah. And I fancy another Van Dijk goal. I think possibly header from a corner, knowing how bad they are. I know our corners aren't always great, but knowing how bad they are at defending set plays. And they are, aren't they the worst team in history or something like that at defending set plays? So I fancy Van Dijk. There you go. There's me three.
See, now you heard it from Mr. Paul Salt. 3-0 on your goal scorers. So, hopefully Friday we bag the 3 points and just keep this momentum going into the new year and, try and get maximum points in the next few games, get a good... we could easily go on 10 game unbeaten run and, you know, get right back in the mix. I mean, we are in the mix. Come on. If you don't think we're not in the mix, then I always say stop watching football. But this is the end of our episode today. But please, I mean, if you like listening to other pods, which you should, because I know, you know, ours is good, but, you know, there's a lot of great podcasts out there. Paul's is the Red Kop Podcast. Paul, you can get it on BBC iPlayer, right?
Yeah, BBC Sounds, or, you know, all your other podcast apps. It's on all of them. And we normally do them on a Monday and then they're out on a Tuesday. We are hopefully going to increase. Unfortunately, I have to do a radio show as well, which gets in the way a little bit. But yeah.
But that pays the bills, though, right?
It does indeed, yeah. It does indeed, yeah. So anyone, if they could give us a try, that would be great. But thank you for inviting me on here again. I've really enjoyed it.
And also, Paul, it is on the breakfast show on BBC Radio Merseyside. So if you get that, you know, I know over there in the States, we're 6 hours behind. So if you do get up at 4 a.m., I'm sure you can have a good listen to Paul's voice and, go about your day. But Paul, thanks for coming on, mate.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And everybody, please like and subscribe, do your notifications so you can get your stuff in quicker. And thank you for listening and see you later.